everybody. Welcome back to the Smarketing Connect podcast. I am your host, Tom Libby, the current CEO and co-founder of Smarketing Connect. And this is a special kind of episode. As you If you followed us in the past, you know that we bring back our guests to do what we call a 5-minute follow-up. So we're typically got one question loaded in the gearbox over here, and I'm going to ask my guest that question in 1 second. But before we do that, I would like to welcome back Paulette to the podcast and give her an opportunity just to reintroduce herself very quickly. And I'll let you do that now. So, Paulette, can you just remind everybody who you are and what you do real quick?
Yes, when I woke up this morning, I was Paulette Ensign, founder and owner of Tips Products Publishing Agency. On recent notice, I still am Paulette Ensign. So I like to do things differently, and I'm happy to talk about that today with you, Tom.
I I don't know. This is going to be longer than 5 minutes, folks, just because I probably am not going to be able to stop laughing. But that was excellent. I love the intro. Um, all right. So the last time we spoke, Paulette, you went into a little bit of details about your business and how you and what you do. I'd like to go a little deeper in that because I think there's a I think there's a misnomer out there that people should be giving away their tips and tricks for free, and that the value of it is some sort of lead generation on the backside of things that they get, et cetera, right? We don't have to go into too much detail in that. But you view the tips very differently from that freebie model. Can you talk a little bit about the value and how you see the value in the tips that people typically give away for free that you don't see that way?
I am so happy you asked me that question because it's something that I deal with almost any time I'm giving the answer of, well, what do you do in life, business-wise? The how-to tips that are what the basis is of the work that I do with any of my clients is all about those short sound bites that people give away when they're speaking, when they're writing, and typically even in a social conversation, when the inevitable question comes up, well, what do you do? The how-to tips are really an ideal starting point for any subject matter expert, other than typically scientists or engineers. But otherwise, absolutely, when you're doing a speaking engagement, inevitably you throw out those tips and you're giving them away free, or you're doing 10 tips. I do 52 tips. And the fact of the matter is, these tips really can be monetized in ways that most of the folks that I encounter at first blush don't realize and are happily surprised because they've got the tips already. And the tips can be, I mentioned 52 just now because not only can those tips be an extraordinary marketing tool, a big differentiator than a lot of other ways of marketing that have become follow the leader, which I don't necessarily subscribe to. They're different. They're not wrong. They're different. Those tips can also be the architecture, the skeleton for a book or an article that you want to write. You can definitely sell your products, which would be book tips booklets, audio, card decks, the same exact content can be a major new revenue stream. Someone yesterday said to me, well, I wish you wouldn't focus on it being a revenue stream. And I said, well, why not? And I realized it had nothing to do with what I was doing. It was the situation that the person who mentioned that to me, that person had an issue about it. So I'm not changing my business model, based on that. I'll be a little more mindful of it. But the fact of the matter is, I personally sold over 2 million copies of the only tips booklet I ever wrote for my own business. And I did that without spending a penny on advertising. Now there's value.
So so you're so the so again, the value comes in from the revenue stream, right? So you can take you're talking about taking these typically given away tips and tricks that people talk about all the time, repackaging them into a revenue driving formula for somebody, right? Like that's
Yes. And Tom, the thing too is that it's simultaneously a marketing tool
yeah.
and also it can be a revenue stream. So when and you're saying tips and tricks, tricks is not a word that I use because
Yeah,
it
I
almost
just couldn't think of
sounds
something to match with it. That's all. I don't really truly believe tricks. I don't like that. I don't
okay.
like that word either, but
So thank you for like,
how
for
about
honoring
tips
that.
and best practices? I should say it that way. Tips and best practices.
Yeah, that I
That's
like
better.
really much better. So yeah, the thing too is that a lot of the folks become deer in the headlights when I say, yeah, you can sell your products because they have issues about selling. Well, I have approaches for that too. So the point is that these tips, if you're somebody who's been thinking about maybe writing a book someday and you still haven't done it, you can get a tips manuscript of 52 tips as a Word doc or as a Google Doc and actually license that information, rent it out so that someone else, some company or association, can pre-schedule 52 tips to drip a tip a week on whatever list they feel they want to stay top of mind for 52 weeks of the year without being annoying and that not asking for, for a call to action until maybe the fifth or sixth in each of those cycles, the fifth or sixth tip. So it really is a differentiator. It is a revenue stream. It is something that when people say, well, what do? You now have expanded your product line. So when they're ready and they have gained more trust in who you are and what you've got available, they're going to come back and say, what else have you got? Those tips were great.
Yeah. So yeah. So and what this basically is telling me, and wrapping up our 5 minutes here, because we're probably slightly over the 5 minutes, but that's okay. So wrapping up here, it's your tips and best practices should have some sort of strategy behind them as well to bring value to them. Whether you use your service or not, you should still be thinking of them as a valuable asset and not just this giveaway, verbiage
Yeah, it's a
that you don't
different
care about.
perspective that I'm introducing to people
Yeah.
who just had never thought of it that way.
I agree, and I love it. I love it. So, Paulette, thank you very much for being my guest again. Again, as always, awesome to talk to you. Always fun for me. So I appreciate you very much. Thank you. And for everybody else out there, keep selling.